One of the best use cases for using AI, especially for the corporate finance teams, because there are so many different elements you have. For most of them,
So, with that announcement of their prototype, there are a lot of questions in terms of what's the future of the overall search landscape. Hello to our AI Connect podcast. With me today, we have Anirban. But before I start having my conversation with Anirban, I wanted to give you the topics that we are discussing today. The first topic, which is very interesting topic, is generative AI and the search market landscape. So this is an important topic, and we'll get there in a moment. And the second topic that we are going to discuss today is going to be the role of AI in financial forecasting. And again, perfect for anyone who is in the finance domain, but nevertheless, it's going to be a very interesting discussion for all AI practitioners as well as the line of business or business folks to see how AI can enhance the role of a finance professional. All right. So with that, Anirban, welcome to our AI Connect podcast. Hope you are doing well.
yeah, thanks, Jaydeep. Doing well.
So there is a very interesting development that has happened in the search space. Last month in July 2024, OpenAI announced a prototype for their search called it's called Search GPT, and that AI is obviously a significant player in the GPT space and LLM space. So with that announcement of their prototype, there are a lot of rising questions in terms of what's the future of the overall search landscape. So I wanted to pick your brain today on that space. With OpenAI's Search GPT entering the market, how do you perceive the potential of generative AI to disrupt the dominance of established players such as Google, right, in the online search industry?
Yeah, so actually, this was probably expected that they will launch this search GPT or equivalent something quick soon. That is one area where Google is like way ahead of anyone else. Today, if you see, Google search has more than 90% of the market share. And the next one, Bing has some 3-4%. So it's like no comparison at all. It's the prime example of a monopoly. Right? This was
Yeah, in fact, I believe it's a 2 trillion market cap of their search
right,
business.
massive.
Massive.
This was expected, and of course, they haven't yet launched or made it GA, generally available. It's still, you have to sign up and will be put in a wait list. And the reason for that, they say, is they're still working with different publishers of information, right? Whether it's news agencies or some other producers of data and information content, etc. So it will probably take a time. And the talk in the market is also that while this is a separate product as such, but it will get integrated with ChatGPT going ahead. So for OpenAI, this is a big move to see if they can take on Google, where Google is the strongest in that sense. They have this issue of whether they can get all the acceptances and permissions from the various content creator. That is one big aspect of it. And the second part is in terms of whether they can reduce inaccurate results or hallucinations and all those things. So these two are very key concerns, right? And unless and until they can address those things, they won't even be in a position to compete. So the other thing also is that Google has, I mean, if you look at if you're doing some deep search, then Google always gives you better results than any other search engine, right? And it's nothing to do with the fact that whether they have better algorithm or anything. It's more that so many more people use it. It keeps getting like what you call in a way prompt engineering, right? So people are using it, people are giving different prompts, people are changing their questions a bit. So, and they are doing it across the world in different types of locations, different type of people and languages and all. So they have this huge advantage over others. So OpenAI has to get one thing is you launch this, but then as more and more people start using it, and they have to find a way to make more people start using it, so that the results also get
Mm.
better than Google. So I think it will take them some time. Yeah.
They are a monopoly, as we discussed, and displacing Google is going to be a mammoth task. But what do you think will be an advantage on their side, the OpenAI side, the
Right.
search GPT
So I
side?
think when it comes to, so there are two types of searches generally we do, right? So one is pure facts that you want to know. So if I want to know what's the capital of Japan, for example, so it can one word can come up
Mm.
Tokyo, and those kind of things. You probably, of course, you will have some links and all, but you don't even need to show any links because it is what it is, right? Or you want to say how much time does it take by train to go from Bangalore to say Kochi.
Mm.
So then those are things you can show a range.
Mhm.
Okay, it takes from X hours to Y hours to reach by different terrains and these things. But if you want to do some more research and all, right? So which are the best movies here or some other scientific and all, where you need a lot of data. That's where I Gen AI
Mm.
based technologies might have an advantage in terms of understanding, in terms of gathering and summarizing the output from different sources and presenting it to the a person who's making those queries. They won't do a
Mm.
summary from data information across different things. Here we can expect them Gen AI based stuff to do that. So that's where probably you might have a they might have some advantage over Google regular search.
Now, one of the points you have touched upon, I think, which is important, which is integrating generative AI into the
Hmm.
search space itself, right? Search engines has sparked concerns about two aspects. One is accuracy, and the second is copyright, right? How do you think companies like OpenAI should navigate these challenges, especially with the pushback that is coming from major publishers? And what strategies could be employed and to balance the innovation and the ethical concerns?
This news publishers and content creators, they anyway have issues both with Google and Meta, Facebook, etc. Right? In some countries like Australia and Canada, they have also passed some laws to force them to share some money with this different other publishing companies and all. So I think one probable strategy for OpenAI could be to actually get those people in its camp, right? And say find out a way where it can monetize,
Hmm.
help them monetize their content and those things. Because then it becomes,
Yeah,
if they are in that camp, it makes OpenAI much more stronger and
motivation.
figure out how to use those information and data, right? So I think that is the best
Hmm.
way to do
Hmm.
instead of trying to fight them in the court and trying to take a position that, oh no, this is fair use and all those things, which they're trying to do now, right? They're saying this is a fair use of this content. So if they can pull them into OpenAI camp, that I think that would be the best possible,
Hmm.
solution for them.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. OpenAI claims that Search GPT will make the finding information lot easier by enhancing conversational
Mhm.
capabilities, right, with real-time data. Now, from a business perspective, how do you see the shift towards conversational search impacting user engagement and satisfaction compared to transactional or traditional search methods?
Yeah, we are seeing there are a lot of requirements in a business environment for conversational search, and not just on the regular search that you do on the web, but also on the data that you have inside the company, right? So you have your regular dashboards and reports and all, but people want to have some kind of way to run ad hoc additional queries to understand the data, the numbers better. So, for example, you see a sales report product category and you see it has done well in the last quarter in all places except in one state where it has actually
Hmm.
come down. So then your natural instinct will be to find out, oh, why did this happen? And can I go drill into it? So instead of, and if I'm business users not very savvy with the technologies of that dashboard and SQL and Excel and all, How do I quickly
Hmm.
find out? If I go and ask, then they will take a time of a day, 2 days to turn around. Conversational piece where I can ask questions in simple English, right? And I get the output, right? So that is something which is going on in the
Hmm.
minds of a lot of people. And we ourselves are doing some
Hmm.
pilots in terms of text to conversions for customers. Of course, it will take some time. I think this is a big use case in the business.
Absolutely, yeah. Cannot agree more on that. Especially, I think more and more enterprise use cases will evolve, taking into account that there's this huge amount of data that is sitting internally within the enterprise data warehouse. And I think conversational search is
Mhm.
going to be a boon in terms of really leveraging those information and make use of those information in terms of gaining the right insights and applying them to maybe improving business processes, workflows, and overall efficiencies
Right.
in general. Now, as we know, and we spoke about Google's dominance in that space, right, in terms of
Mhm.
overwhelming market share that they enjoy, and also partnerships with companies such as Apple, which are also very
Mhm.
strong for them. Um, Considering these two, what is a realistic chance for a newcomer like OpenAI with their search GPT, the foray into the GPT based
Mhm.
search in the mobile search market?
Yeah, it is.
Because we know that there's a lot of search that is happening currently which are mobile
Correct.
search driven, and Apple is
Mhm.
obviously a big partner.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, more than 60% of the global internet traffic comes from mobile devices, and that number will grow,
Hmm.
right, over the next few years. So then, and what happens is the two big operating systems in terms of market share, Android and iOS. And Android is Google's own, and all Android phone also have the default browser Chrome, which is again from Google. So then it becomes very difficult for any other party to come in and become the default search engine of choice, right, on all these phones. And then
Hmm.
again, in case of Apple, so the Alphabet pays some huge annual fee, I think some 20 billion or something in the latest year that the data is available. So to ensure that they are the
Hmm.
default internet search engine on the Safari browser. So with this kind of muscle power,
Hmm.
it becomes very difficult unless, and we have seen from different studies that most people are least bothered to change their search engine, right? They are just happy with whatever they have. Unless so,
Hmm.
I don't see how some OpenAI or anyone else can quickly get in. So they have to think of some other ways of incentivizing the users to change the default search engine.
One possible, maybe a very small avenue for OpenAI could
Hmm.
be that context aware follow up queries part, which I think even Google should be catching up with that
Yeah.
also soon. Like you mentioned, the depth that Google has, because the amount of questions that
Hmm.
they received, and that is continuously, I think, building the intelligence for their search anyway,
Correct.
right? But anyway, I think what we will be interested to see is that how enterprise leverage this, while in the consumer space, as of now at least, Google continues to dominate, and it will only time will tell that how search GPT is able to bite into
Hmm.
that market share in the search space. I think a lot to come in that space. But let's switch gear, and I wanted to now jump into a topic which is, I think we spoke about the role of AI in the financial space, right? Look, AI is not very new, I would say, to that sense in the finance space, specifically with the promise of driving insights for data analytics or
Hmm.
performance measurement, predictions, or forecasting. I think we have been hearing that, and probably seeing them in action a little for a while. But let's go deep dive, and I wanted to understand for our viewers that how really AI is helping the finance professionals and
Hmm.
finance as a practice in general improve overall, right? So to start with, like I mentioned, AI-driven predictive analytics we know now can significantly enhance the forecasting accuracy for revenue, cash flows, and expenses. How do you see these advancements influencing the decision-making process of finance
Mhm.
leaders, particularly in terms of risk management and strategic planning?
Yeah, this forecasting is the key element for any kind of decision making because that is the core input that you have before you decide whether to do something, right?
Mm,
And that something could be anything. So for that, the predictions and forecasting becomes very important. And till now, even now, quite a lot of companies they do it with simple spreadsheets and others. But with AI, what has happened is you can process larger amounts of data at a faster time frame and get outputs from that, right? So you can take multi-year data, you can use internal data, external data, structured data, unstructured data, all of that together to process under different types of models and algorithms, and you can figure out what kind of forecasts are needed for you and work on that. So AI has helped from that
mm,
perspective that you can process or mine large data sets and then provide the output based on that. The thing is, there are different things you, as you mentioned already, you have to forecast the revenue, the cash flows, the expenses, and also the thing is that a lot of them are interlinked. So, what kind of strategy you've taken, what kind of customers you are attracting or trying to attract, where all you are selling. Based on that, you have to use all those factors to then forecast the revenue. And based on that, okay, this kind of customers, how quickly they will play. Based on that, you figure out, okay, what will be my accounts receivable strategy, what kind of cash flows can I expect, and things like that. What
mm,
you can even
mm.
you may even need a model bad debts, right? So what's the risk of bad debt? So what kind of customers should I avoid? So all those will come in with the usage of data.
Got it. Okay. So one aspect of financial integrity and even
Mhm.
identifying error, we have seen that any anomaly
Right.
detection, which is powered by AI, is becoming crucial for identifying
Mhm.
such errors or even potential violations in financial
Right.
transactions, right? What are some of those key benefits or maybe challenges that you foresee in implementing real time anomaly detection systems in the financial operations? And how does that even impact the overall financial integrity and compliance for any financial establishment?
Yeah, right. If you look at it for the, as I said, the amount of data coming in even on a daily basis is also very high for the larger companies. So for them to use a manual method for detecting anomalies and errors is very difficult. So they have to have AI-based system which can do that. And some of the areas where it helps is one is in terms of monitoring accounts and transactions, right? Now nowadays you see so many of this frauds happening. The people are taking OTP or some other like
Mm,
DHL, FedEx kind of scams and all,
mm,
and but what has been found is that most of this money is transferred to what they call mule accounts. So accounts where people are not actually using, and these guys take control of that. So then, how do you monitor that? So things like, okay, has never seen transaction of any amount beyond 2,000 rupees, and suddenly 20 lakh rupees is deposited. So it should raise a trigger, and then how do you then stop any further transaction till the bank is satisfied that okay, no, this transaction is fair and we should allow them money to be used by the account holder. Similarly, any other spending patterns
mm,
or any high value transactions. So all those things the bank or other financial institutions have to do. And actually, this is also required for them to report to RBI and other government bodies money laundering
mm,
prevention acts. So that is one part. Secondly,
mm, mm,
identity verification. Again, this mule accounts and all people are using the ID proofs, the Aadhaar cards or others from different people who are not even aware that this is being used, and opening bank accounts and phone numbers and all those things. So again, here, how do based on the past data of anomalies and frauds and all, the AI systems can quickly mark that okay, there is a flag that this one looks suspicious. Please take a look, right? So that is again another way you can look at it. Then also like any other fraudulent application, like
Mhm.
someone applying for insurance claims and whether it's a true claim or a fraud or credit card applications and or any other loan applications. So how do you scrutinize and detect some standard anomalies which have been noticed earlier also?
Obviously, there are multiple use cases
Yeah.
as I see and you explain, and clearly AI has a large or an important role to play in terms of the anomaly detection and also from overall security and compliance perspective, especially at a time when we are seeing a lot of
Right.
online fraud. But we also see another area where AI is in a growing dominance, right? Which is basically the overall decision
Correct.
support system. The use of AI today, especially generating what if scenarios for for transforming decision support in finance is becoming evident. How do you think AI can be leveraged to improve accuracy and reliability of such scenarios, like those what if scenarios? And what implications does this have for our financial planning and analysis teams in terms of flexibility or
Right. Right.
responsiveness?
So actually, yeah, this is yeah one of the best use cases for using AI, especially for the corporate finance teams, because there are so many different
Mm,
elements you have. For most of them, you have the foundation is forecasting, whether it's a forecasting demand, you're forecasting your inventory, you're forecasting your the number of people required, right? So anyway, all of this you're doing based on different data, and then based on that, you're taking decisions, right? So, for example, your facilities team comes and says, "Okay, we're planning to take this new facility, 5,000 people." The the owner is saying, if you sign a 5-year lease, I'll give you 20% off or something like that. If you go for 1 year or
mm,
2 year lease, you have to pay the market fee. So let's go for 5 years. Now, how do you take that decision? Because again, based on
mm,
that, you have to first decide. So you have to ask your HR team, what is your forecast for the way the number of employees will grow? Then you have to see, okay, what is the uh, seeing in terms of the rentals that will go up, go down, all those things. And so different variables you have to take into account before you can do that. And there again, you have to do what if scenario. What if the business goes down, right? We have less growth, even degrowth, and all those things. Then what do we do? So how will we manage the the lease, the rentals, and all? Or if the growth is too fast, then what do we do? We go for 10,000 people. So all those different scenarios you have to take and then look at whether this makes sense or not, right? And here what happens is so there are so many variables
mm.
involved. You have financial variables like your pricing, your fees, taxes, etc. You have the market variables, the market condition, what is happening in the market, what is your competition doing. You have the economic variables like interest rates, inflation, unemployment rates, all those things. Then internally operational variables, workforce size, product mix, how many factories, where all the factories are there, then lead time, inventory. So there's so many variables. So when you create this what if scenarios, you go around adjusting these variables to see what all can happen, and then you decide, okay, strategy, okay, we'll go ahead with this for the time being, but if this changes, if that changes, then we move to B or C or D option that we have created. So that's how, because AI is able to manage and manipulate such large amounts of data, this becomes much easier to do than probably a few years back when people were only dependent on Excel with some smaller amount of variables.
Got it. Now, I want to switch to a slightly different topic, which is about task automation. We
Hmm.
used to see back in maybe even till a couple of decades ago, maybe even before a decade ago, there were these large teams of account payable and receivables in the
Right.
finance team, right? And with AI reducing the manual workload, definitely there is a switch that is happening in terms of human oversight. So, how do you envision the balance between automation and the human oversight evolving in the finance space within the finance teams? And what are those long term implications of this shift for the role of finance professionals, those at least who are now started building their career in that?
Hmm. So actually, see, there is a lot of tasks which are repetitive. Then also there are tasks which doesn't add any value, but you still have to do today. Okay, so can we avoid those? For example, uh, your vendor has submitted an invoice. We talked about accounts payable, right? So vendor has submitted an invoice, and then he will call twice to find out what is the status of my invoice, when are you going to pay. So someone has to pick up the phone, someone has to then again dig in, find the data, and then inform. Or the vendor may call up, your counterpart in the procurement team or someone else said that my invoice is not paid, or my invoice has been only part paid, not fully paid. Why it has happened? So again, that guy will call up his colleague in
Mm,
the finance team. That guy will again sit. So those kind of unproductive work, right? But this you have to do, but it's not actually adding value to your company anyway. Similarly, there are a lot of repetitive works. You're processing the invoices and all. So what are the things that can be done to automate some of this part and ensure the information is available so that one single person is able to view the data and give it, or you directly enable the vendor to see the status of his various invoices and purchase orders and not have to call up someone in the company. So similarly, there are many other things like contracts. So if you have larger companies with standardized contracts, to ensure that the sanctity of the standard template is maintained, you don't do too many changes unless that has been approved by someone senior in the organization, right? And then you ensure that the things
mm,
that are happening as per the contract. So contract has been signed, but then under that, when you're issuing purchase orders, so are they in the right type? So whether you're issued in the right thing, whether you mentioned the right bank account number, your right GST number of both yours and the vendors, and all those things. Those are the things that can again be automated, right? Instead of someone manually doing it, because that
mm.
manual work always leads to some errors in the entry of the data. So I think this is one area where a lot of
Got it.
possibilities are there.
And like all other aspects of shifting the human workload more towards automation,
Mhm.
I think the answer will always be in that there are enough other areas that human can actually use their intelligence to add value,
Right,
right? I think finance is a domain which probably have seen over the years a lot of automation, and probably one of the early adopters of some of the AI systems, with whether it is forecasting, predictability, or cash flows, or even now we spoke about decision making,
right,
right?
right.
So I think will wrap our discussion here, Nirban.
Sure.
So two important topics we covered today. The first topic is the Search GPT announcement, the prototype announcement from OpenAI,
Mhm.
and how that is going to steer the overall search landscape in the coming days. Whether or not OpenAI will become a dominant player is to be seen. And the other aspect we discussed today is that how AI is playing in improving different financial processes and therefore optimizing various
Mhm.
workflows um, to increase efficiencies, reduce cost or dependencies on human workload, and so on. I think both are important topic and contemporary as well, and we will continue to discuss some of
Yes.
these AI use cases in the coming days. Thank you for your inputs and your time today, Anirban, and I look forward to chatting up again in our future episodes. So thanks and have a great day.
Thank you, Jaideep. Nice talking to you. Have a great day too. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.